my gosh. Oh, my Marla. I'm so glad you're here, darling. Oh, my gosh.
I was online last night with Will Mangus.
I'm so glad you're here. It's really a mafia to see you.
I mean, it's good to be here.
Yes. Good question. Yeah.
That one I know, and I didn't want to not know it.
Yeah, right.
Hatima Tova, Shana Tova. So good to see you here. And I'm so pleased to know that there are so many of you also with us on Zoom, those here physically and as well as spiritually, and those who are connected through the ether in some way or another. I wanted to begin with a sharing of a piece by Maya Angelou. And it's really about teshuvah, return, and forgiveness. I don't know if I continue, even today, always liking myself. But what I learned to do many years ago was to forgive myself. It is very important for every human being to forgive themselves, because if you live, you will make mistakes. It is inevitable. But once you do, and you see the mistake, then you forgive yourself and say, well, if I'd known better, I'd have done better. That's all. So you say to people who you think you may have injured, I'm sorry. And then you say to yourself, I'm sorry. If we all hold on to the mistake, we can't see our own glory in the mirror because we have the mistake between our faces and the mirror. We can't see what we're capable of being. You can ask forgiveness of others, but in the end, the real forgiveness is in one's own self. And we say together, Amen.
Turio iscabi
That was so beautiful, Emily, and I could hear some of the choir members singing their parts along with you from the congregation. So beautiful. Thank you. We're going to continue in the middle of page 139. Deepest good. When I sort through the layered texture of what clutters and claims my spirit, I find you, deepest good, in residence. You shine like a piece of gold inside of me. In that tranquil, secluded district of soul, I discover my true, unblemished nature. Teach me that there is much more to me than just my struggle and my failure. Absorb me in the jewel of your love until I am fully one with your goodness. Page 157. The blessing of our bodies. We start together at the top in English. I can look at my body as an old friend who needs my help, or an enemy who frustrates me in every way with its fragility and inability to cope. Old friend, I shall try to be of comfort to you to the end. Bottom of the page. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei chol basar umafli la'asot. Middle of page 159 for the blessing of our souls. As a blade of your grass in a distant wildfire loses a seed in the lap of the earth and dies away, so in me your living breath, as you sow a seed in the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, asher biado nefesh kol chai, v'ruach kol basar ish. And we continue on page 168. Responsively, Ashrei yoshvei v'techa. We are so fortunate to be sitting here in this presence right now, in our homes, in the chairs, in the parking lot. Ashrei yoshvei v'techa od yilalucha sela. Tehila leDavid aromimcha lo haya melech, ve'avacha shimcha le'olam va'ed. Gadol Adonai mehulal meod, v'ligdulato ein cheker. Hadar kevod odecha v'divrei niflotecha asicha. Zecher rav tuvcha yabi'u v'tzitkatcha yiranenu. Tov Adonai lakol v'rachamav al kol ma'asav. Kevod malchutcha yomeru ugvuratecha yudaberu. Malchutcha malchut kol olamim umemshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor. עיני חולליך יסברו, ואתה נותן להם את אוכלם בעתו. פותח את ידיך, ומשביע לכל חי רצון. צדיק אדוני בכל דרכיו, וחסיד בכל מעשיו. רצון יראיו יעשה, ואת שבתם ישמע ויושיעם. תהילת אדוני ידבר פיו, ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד, ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם. Hallelujah. Page 170. So many ways to praise. Hallelujah. 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 Bekocho. Hallelujah. Birki auzo. Hallelujah. Bigevurotav. Hallelujah. Kirov gudlo. Hallelujah. Beteka shofar. Hallelujah. Benevel vechinor. Hallelujah. 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 Betofu machol. Hallelujah. Beminim ve'ogav. Hallelujah. Betziltzilei shama. Hallelujah. Betziltzilei trua. Kol anshama de Alleluia. Kol anshama de Alleluia. Hallelujah. 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 Together on the bottom of page 172. Ha'el beta'atzumot uzecha, Hagadol b'chavod shemecha, Hagibor lanetzach ve'anora b'norotecha, Hamelech, 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 Hamelech yoshev al kisei ram v'nisa, Shochen ad marom v'kadosh shmo, v'chatuv ranenu tzadikim b'Adonai, le'yesharim nava tehila, b'fi yesharim titromam, u'v'divrei tzadikim titbarach, u'v'lshon chasidim titkadash, u'v'kerev kedoshim titalal, u'v'makalot rivivot, Amcha Beit Yisrael, Berina yitpa'er shimcha malkeinu bechol dor vador, Yishtabach shimcha la'ad malkeinu, Ha'el ha'melech ha'gadol va'kadosh b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Ki lecha na Adonai Eloheinu v'levoteinu v'imotenu, Shiru shvaha, Hallel v'zimra, Ozu memshala, Netzach gedula ugvura tehila, v'tiferet kedusha u'malchut, Birachot ve'hodaot, me'ata ve'ad olam, Baruch ata Adonai, El melech gadol batishbachot, El hodaot, Adon haniflaot, Aboher b'shirei zimra, Melech elchei ha'olamim. Page 176, Chatzi Kaddish. Yitkadal, v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, v'yomad divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'hayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayei dercho Beit Yisrael, ba'agala, ba'agala, uv'izman kariv, v'imeru. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach, le'olam u'lo mehomaya, yitbarach, yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yit'aleh, v'yithalal, shemei dekudesha barichu, La'ela ula'ela mikol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran b'alma v'meru. If it's comfortable to rise, please do as we invoke the blessing of the name on page 178. Barechu et Adonai hamevorach 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 hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach leolam vaed. Please be seated. We continue together on the top of page 181. Those who dwell as scientists or lay people among the beauties and mysteries of the earth are never alone or weary of life. Whatever the vexations or concerns of their personal lives, their thoughts can find paths that lead to inner contentment and to renewed excitement in living. Those who contemplate the beauty of the earth find reserves of strength that will endure as long as life lasts. There is symbolic as well as actual beauty in the migration of the birds, the ebb and flow of the tides, the folded bud ready for the spring. There is something infinitely healing in the repeated refrains of nature, the assurance that dawn comes after night and spring after winter. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMe'orot. We continue with the section of the Ahava Rabbah on page 182. Ahava Rabbah Avtanu, Ahava Rabbah Avtanu, Ahava Rabbah, Ahava Rabbah, Ahava Rabbah Avtanu, Ahava Rabbah Avtanu, Ahava Rabbah Avtanu, Ahava Rabbah, Ahava Rabbah, Ahava Rabbah Avtanu. Such a great love, such a great love you have given us. Such a great love, such a great love you have given us. We take a moment to gather ourselves together for the deep listening on page 186, the affirmation that when we truly, truly listen, then we can truly find and hear the oneness, the Shema of Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malachoto Le'olam Vaed. And we continue with the greatest love of the Ve'ahavta. Page 188. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'ayu devarim ha'ele asher anochi Mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha bevetecha uvelechtecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha ukeshatam leot al yadecha v'ayu letotafot beininecha uchetavtam al mezuzot betecha uvisharecha. Page 191, we continue. Leman tizkaru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim lelachem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihiot lachem le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem emet. We just chanted that section at the very, very end, that it is the Holy One who helped bring us out of Mitzrayim. And we all know Mitzrayim, many of us know Mitzrayim means narrow places. Last year we were in a very narrow place, right? This year we did not expect to be still in this narrow place. Let's just acknowledge that. And yet, as Rabbi Schiffer so beautifully helped us realize and understand and sink into, the hope keeps us going. It's the hope. It's that sense that we can survive, we can thrive, we can live, we can sink deeply into what we can do. And so as we chant the Michamocha on page 196, I want to invite you into that space. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mikamocha nedar ba'kodesh, Nora tehilot ose vele, Shira hadasha, Shibechu geulim leshimcha, Sefatayam Yachad Kulam Hodu Ve'imlichu Ve'amru Adonai Yimloch Leolam Vad. Tzur Yisrael Kuma Bezrat Yisrael Ufidechenu Mecha Yehuda v'Yisrael Go'aleinu Adonai Tzivaot Shemo Kedosh Yisrael Baruch Atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. We take some time now, beginning on page 198, for the private Amidah. We go through pages 198 to page 202. If it's comfortable for you to rise, please do. And when you've completed your prayers and meditations, please take your seats. יהיו לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך אדוני צורי וגואלי. Page 198, if it's comfortable to rise, please do for the public repetition of the Amidah. Adonai, sifatai tiftach, ufi agidei latecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, Ve'konei Hakol, V'zocher chastei avot ve'imahot, u'mevii gula levenei v'neihem, lema'an shemo be'ahava. Zochrenu l'chaim, melech hafetz b'chaim, v'chotvenu b'sefer ha'chaim, lema'ancha Elohim chaim, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh metim atah Rav le'Hoshiach, Morid hadtal, Mechalkel hayim בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצורך לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. We continue together on page 208. Our God, our sovereign God of pardon and forgiveness, let these words of sanctity ascend to you. Let us proclaim the power of this day, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe and inspires highest praise for your dominion. For your throne is a throne of love. Your reign is a reign of truth. In truth, you are judge and plaintiff, counselor and witness. You inscribe and seal, you record and recount. You remember all that we have forgotten, and when you open the book of memories, it speaks for itself, for every human hand leaves its mark, an imprint like no other. Unatana Tokef, page 208.
Unatana
page 210. And so, a great shofar will cry, Tekiah, please join me. A still small voice will be heard. Angels in a whirl of fear and trembling will say, behold the day of judgment, for they too are judged. In your eyes, even they are not blameless. All who come into the world pass before you, like sheep before their shepherd. As a shepherd considers the flock, when it passes beneath the staff, you count and consider every life. You set bounds, you decide destiny, you inscribe judgments. And we turn to the top of page 212 and chant together. Berosh Hashanah Yikatevun Uveyom Tzom Kippur Yechatemun Berosh Hashanah Yikatevun Uveyom Tzom Kippur Yechatemun. Page 213 together. An empty page, an open book, a day of ultimate questions. Will I still be here next year at this time? Will the ones I love beside me? What is in store for my family? And what will become of my friends? Who will have reason to celebrate? Who will contend with grief, new love, new babies, marriages deepening or breaking apart, prosperity, struggle, reversals of fortune, illness, and health await us? Who will be missing when we gather next? Who will stand apart? Who will be estranged? And who will have joined us, enriching our community? On the edge of the unknown we tremble. What lies ahead for us all? An empty page, an open book. Nothing is written and nothing is sealed. Flesh and blood, frail creatures, our lives are fleeting and subject to chance. Yet this we possess, the strength to resist, to prevail, to comfort one another in the dark. Prayer, right action, a turning toward the good, these give us hope and help us bear the pain of life. Page 214. Uteshuva, utefila, utzedakah, ma'avirin et roa hagzera. Page 218. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, kashem shemakdishim oto b'shemei marom, kakatuv al yad nevihecha, v'karazeh el zev yamar. Kadosh, 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 Adonai tzivot, melo chol haaretz kevodo. Adir adirenu, Adonai Adonenu, ma'adir shimcha bechol haaretz. Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo. Echad hu Eloheinu hu Avinu, hu Malkeinu hu Moshi'enu, v'hu Yashmi'enu berachamim le'enei kol chai. Ani Adonai Elohechem. The Uvechein section of the Kedusha has three different visions of the future. And I thought for the Uvechein this year, I would read for you just a section, just an excerpt from Amanda Gorman's The Hill We Climb that we heard on Inauguration Day. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith, we trust. For while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. Page 233, we continue. Zochreinu Adonai Eloheinu bo l'tova. Let me hear that amen, please. There we go. Can I get an amen? We'll try that again. Zochreinu Adonai Eloheinu bo l'tova. Ufokdeinu vo livracha. V'hoshi'enu vo lechaim. Eternal our God, remember us.
Amen.
Be mindful of us.
Amen.
And redeem us for a life of goodness and blessing.
Amen.
We continue with the Birkat Kohanim, one of our oldest blessings from Torah, the blessing of the priests in the temple on this day, the blessing that we share with our children at the Shabbat table and our families and all who we care about. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, barcheinu b'bracha ha'meshuleshet ha'ketuva b'Torah ha'amura mipi kohanim am kedoshecha kamur. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. Yish Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Page 246. Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova uveracha. Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova uveracha. Ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la la, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova uveracha. B'sefer chayim beracha v'shalom ufarnasa tova nizacher unikatev lefanecha anachnu v'chol amcha beit Yisrael lechayim tovim l'shalom. Let us and the whole family of Israel be remembered and inscribed in the book of life. May it be a life of goodness, blessing, and prosperity. May it be a life of peace. Together, Baruch Atah Adonai Oseh HaShalom. Please be seated. Until nearly the end of her life, whenever I spoke with Tegan, she was making plans. And these plans weren't mundane. They were designed to fulfill a goal or a dream that she wanted to fulfill. Her creative spirit combined with her critical thinking skills enriched her too few years, and at the same time added fresh perspective and new insights for those of us who knew her. But one of the plans she was unable to achieve was just as unique and brilliant. From the moment she received her cancer diagnosis, Tegan fought the disease with unbelievable tenacity. She summoned every single tool she could find to increase her capacity to heal and extend her quality of life. And she kept planning. Before she died, Tegan had a very particular plan. She wanted to host a memorial for herself. She wanted to both thank the ones whom she cared for, and she also wanted to hear how these same people felt about her. She wanted to give her loved ones the opportunity to share what might have previously been unspoken. After all the doctor's visits, support groups, hospitalizations, Tegan just wanted to gather folks together to share stories with her and celebrate her life. Sadly, due to COVID, Tegan was not able to host this gathering. But many of her friends and family were able to visit with her outside safely to reflect on their relationships and say goodbye. And her sister, Tara, who took such good care of Tegan, helped make these visits possible. These moments were poignant. They weren't exactly what Tegan had in mind. They did bring her some peace. When Tegan died, we had a small burial service at Home of Peace and a much larger Zoom gathering online. Like Tegan, so many have died during these past 18 months. How have we grieved for these losses? During the height of the pandemic, I spoke with more than a few members who had grandparents, parents, and other close relatives and friends die, but were unable to go to their funerals. Given the risk of traveling, it was just too dangerous. So the loss of the usual ways of mourning together, the hugs and face-to-face contact, have been unavailable. Especially during this past year and a half when death has been more present than it usually is in our daily lives, with reminders on the news, stories from friends and in the paper, not being able to gather in person and mourn has been difficult. The usual ways of expressing our grief haven't been as available to us as the pandemic continues bringing more disease and death. I've been thinking, what are some of the different kinds of practices that have helped us navigate our losses during this time? We have had to adjust. Instead of our familiar customs of getting dressed up in dark clothing, traveling to the cemetery or funeral home, comforting friends and family in person, and sharing a meal of consolation, we've come together in small groups at a cemetery or in virtual spaces. I have seen how we have adapted during this time, and there have been some interesting outcomes. For some, being connected through Zoom from the safety of our homes has made it a bit easier to express sadness and to speak from the heart. The sense of vulnerability of in-person grieving has been mitigated by feeling a bit more comfortable maybe on screen. We had our first Zoom Kaddish call on March 20th, 2020. Saying Kaddish on Zoom can be oddly moving. I've looked around at the Zoom boxes and seen your faces, seen your tears. For some of us, this has been the first time in many years that we've been able to say Kaddish with family members from all over the country. I'll never forget seeing the face of a mother who was able to say Kaddish together online with her 3 adult children, some who live far away. for the first time in many years. And just a few weeks ago, it happened again for the same family. They were all there. And just a few weeks ago, we saw it again. Some of our members have been able to say Kaddish almost every week for a full year because we've been online. Instead of dealing with rush hour traffic, the ritual of being able to say the name of a parent or a friend or a partner or a sibling has been quite meaningful. As hard as the pandemic has been, we've learned new ways to connect and support each other in mourning the death of our loved ones. And we will continue with the Kaddish call, even when we're able to gather for Shabbat services again in person in our sanctuary. Our country suffered a devastating loss when Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg died just hours before Rosh Hashanah last year. Remember? So many of us felt a deep wound in our hearts, which were already battered from the anxiety of the pandemic, the state of our politics, bearing witness to racial injustice, and so much more. When RBG died, I felt like it was just too much to bear. A few days after her passing, we organized an online gathering of mourning in her honor. We shared poetry and prayers, and Bettina Apteker shared her thoughts and personal connection with Justice Ginsburg. We did our best to comfort each other and share in our grief, and some of us were able to take on the mitzvah of virtual shmirah, the guarding of her spirit. An online spreadsheet was posted immediately, and Jews all over the country signed up for half-hour shifts to connect with Justice Ginsburg's spirit and thank her for her wisdom and dedication. I was amazed to see how quickly the practice of these mitzvah was adapted to reflect pandemic concerns. Traditionally, one would sit with and guard the body of the person who has died. Shmirah means guarding. But sitting shmirah is really about accompanying the soul of the person more than the body. The person sitting is invited to recite psalms, chant prayers, and connect with the spirit of the person. Some of you have been performing these mitzvah in person for many years through the work of our Chevra Kadisha, our holy society of friends who care for those who have died. One reason we were able to shift into a virtual mode for Shmirah and Tahara, preparing the body for burial, is because Holly Blue Hawkins, our cemeterian, and Rosha, our head of our Chevra Kadisha, is on the faculty of the Gamliel Institute, a national center for study, training, and advocacy concerning Jewish end-of-life practices. Along with her colleagues, Holly helped Jews all over the world navigate the safest and most meaningful ways to care for our beloved dead during COVID-19. Our own Chevra Kadisha performed several Tahara rituals virtually from our own homes, connected online, while funeral staff at the mortuary did the physical preparations. The Tahara involves the washing and pouring water to purify the body. The last step of the Tahara is to dress the deceased in cotton or linen shrouds. The intention behind Tahara is, while caring for the body, accompanying the soul on the journey from this world to the world beyond. This is an intimate act, and I truly wondered what it would be like not to be with the person's body, to say the prayers, and imagine the tender and gentle care of washing and dressing. Each member of the Chevra had our prayers to read and ritual water to pour during the ceremony. Before we started the ritual, we divided up the different readings and prayers, some taken from the traditional Tahara ritual and others chosen to reflect the virtual Tahara, the spiritual Tahara, the Tahara Ruchanit. It includes visualization prompts to help members of the Chevra imagine themselves present with the body and spirit of the person we were caring for. Each of us had a candle and a pitcher of water with a bowl that we would use for pouring the water at the designated time. At the end of the Tahara, we were invited to picture ourselves standing around the casket of the Meta, the person who had died, at peace inside as we placed our hands on the coffin to offer comfort. After completing our first virtual Tahara, we were amazed by how moving it was. We were spiritually present with the Meta, despite our physical distance. The physical Tahara had shifted into a spiritual Tahara, this Tahara Ruchanit. While we were unable to bathe and dress the person who had died, we could still accompany their souls as they made their last journey. These are some examples of how we shifted mourning rituals that have been practiced for hundreds and hundreds of years to accommodate new circumstances. I began wondering what else we might be able to do moving forward to mediate the loss of usual grief rituals like family and community funerals that did not happen these past 18 months. Here are some suggestions. On or close to our loved one's yahrzeit, invite you to gather with family in person or online to create a tapestry of life, an opportunity to create a participatory eulogy, to share stories, the funny, the sad, the embarrassing, the sweet, the painful, the unique. Few questions you might think about. Are there any stories to share with each other about how our loved one grew up, what their parents were like? What kind of a child were they? As we have moved through our grief, are there particular memories we've never talked about before? Friends and family members might share their understanding of your loved one's favorite activities. Was there anything special you liked to do together? What made them happy? What do you feel they would want you to remember most about them? In his new book, The Beauty of What Remains, Rabbi Stephen Leder has a chapter about how in crafting an eulogy, he discusses with the family of a loved one who has died, what they want to share. And he asks some of these questions, and he writes in his book about the importance of telling the truth. He gives the example of a mother who was extremely intrusive in her children's lives, who always found fault with their choices. He writes that instead of saying this in a hurtful way or ignoring it, he might say something like, "Many years ago, a friend of mine told me that the worst thing a parent could be was indifferent. As a mother, she was never indifferent." When gathering to remember your loved one, this can be a way to frame the truth. And just as we did now, it may even elicit some laughter. While gathering for a loved one's yahrzeit is not the same as a public funeral, sensitivity and honesty are important. In a short while, some of us will gather for Yizkor, a communal sharing of grief. Last year, we created a slideshow of all those who had died during the year. Seeing photographs from the privacy of our own homes brought many of us tears of loss and a bit of comfort. While it wasn't the same as gathering in our sanctuary, just seeing their faces brought back memories of them and evoked the moments in time that we shared with the people we love. This year, some of us will be here together physically and some will be on Zoom. I invite you all to reflect upon what we may have learned about grief during this pandemic. What can we do going forward to continue lifting up the memories of all those we lost? In closing, I want to share with you a meditation Rabbi Leder has shared with his congregation. Close your eyes, breathe in deeply, breathe out and relax. Breathe in deeply again. Breathe in peace. Breathe in quiet. Now place yourself in a comfortable room in your home or wherever you choose, and invite into that room a loved one who has died. Bring them to life again in your mind. Bring them to life again in your mind, in your memory. See them. See their skin, their hair. See them. See their smile, their eyes. Be with them. Speak to them. Tell them what you wish for them. Give them your blessing. Now allow them to leave the room. Breathe deeply, and when you are ready, open your eyes. May we continue exploring different pathways through grief and lift up the memories of all of our beloved who have died. And we say together, Amen. We turn now to the Avinu Malkeinu on page 252 and 253. If it's comfortable for you to rise, please do. Responsively. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings.
Avinu Malkeinu, let our eyes behold the dawn of redemption.
Avinu Malkeinu, we pray, do not turn us away from you with nothing.
Avinu Malkeinu, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it.
Avinu Malkeinu, act towards us as befits your name.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake, if not for ours.
Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our sovereign.
Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayer.
Avinu Malkeinu, hear our voice. Treat us with tender compassion. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu Malkeinu, Kien Baru Masin, Asei Manu, Tzedakah v'chesed, Asei Manu, Tzedakah v'chesed, ve'hoshienu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Chanenu v'anenu, ki ein banu masin.
We turn now to page 255 for the Torah service. Those of you who have honors may want to come forward a little bit so that it'll be easier for you to get up to the Torah, to the Bima. Bottom of page 255. Av harachamim hetiva vinsoncha et Zion tivnei Chamat Yerushalayim tivnei Chamot Yerushalayim ki vecha levad batachnu melech el ram v'nisa adon olamim. Top of page 256. Adonai, Adonai, Erachum v'chanun, Erech apayim, V'rav chesed v'emet, Notzer chesed lalafim, Nosavon, V'fesha v'chata'a v'nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, Erachum v'chanun, Erech apayim, V'rav chesed v'emet, Notzer chesed la'alafim, Noseh avon, V'fesha v'chata'a v'nakeh. Adonai, Adonai, Erachum v'chanun, Erech apayim, V'rav chesed v'emet, Notzer chesed la'alafim, Noseh avon, V'fesha v'chata'a v'nakeh. Responsively. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'norah shemo. Middle of page 257. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam omed. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam omed. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam omed. Please be seated. You're going to find the Torah blessings on page 258 and the Torah reading on page 266. For the first Aliyah, I'd like to call up Rachel Sundberg for the Kriya, for the chanting, the Ba'alat Kriya, and for the blessing, I'd like to call up her family. Ya'amdu Avishai ben Penina v'Yosef, Malka bat Zelda v'Yosef, Malachai ben Malka v'Avishai, Aliyah Rishon, Melissa, and Max and Carrie.
Yes. I hope so.
This on the table,
Okay.
and then take the tiny talit and touch it right there.
Take your masks off when you bless.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborah.
Baruch Adonai Hamavorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborah le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech olam. Asher bachar banu mikol hamim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Atem nitzavim hayom kulachem livnei Adonai Elohechem Rashechem Shivtechem Zikneihem Veshotrechem Kol Ish Yisrael Tavchem Nishechem Vegercha Asher Bekerev Manecha Mechotei Veitzacha Ad Shoev Meimecha Le'avracha Bivrit Adonai Elohecha Uvalato Asher Adonai Elohecha Korei Timcha Hayom.
Okay, put the out there.
Not.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam Asher natan lanu Torah emet v'hayolam otam b'tohenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yashikoach. You can come on over on the other side. Beautiful. And for the second Aliyah, I'd like to call forward Mark Engel for blessing and chanting. Ya'amud Doran ben Yoel Udvora Aliyah Sheni.
It's
You're starting with Lamama. Oh, there you go.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Amborach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Elo. Sorry.
You're right. Eloheinu melech haolam.
Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
למען הקים אותך היום לא לעם, והוא יהיה לך לאלוהים, כאשר דיבר לך וכאשר נשבע לאבותיך, לאברהם, ליצחק וליעקב. ולא איתכם לבדכם, אנוכי כורת את הברית הזאת ואת העלה הזאת, כי את אשר ישנו פה עמנו עומד היום לפני אדוני אלוהינו, ואת אשר איננו פה עמנו היום. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Yeshua. That was beautiful. For the next Aliyah, I'd like to call up as the Ba'alat Kriya, Sarah Benevento, and I'd like to also call up Laura and David and Evan for the blessing of the Torah. Ya'amdu Nechama Mira Bat Sarah Rachel, Nehemiah Chaim Ben Sarah Rachel.
Are you sure this isn't Jordan? It's not Sarah? It's the opposite.
Uh-oh, sorry. What's your first word of the Aliyah?
Oh, okay, that's correct then.
Woo, okay.
Okay, good.
Good.
Great.
All right.
Good.
Hey, again, it's Yom Kippur.
Perfect.
Forgive us. It's the best day to make a mistake. Okay,
Okay.
take the yod. You're gonna point.
All right, and you can point to the word key right there. Take the corner of your talit, if you would, and touch where she's pointing. And kiss.
Come on in.
Beautiful. And now we can close.
You chant, take your mask off. Baruch Adonai Amborach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. One of you hold.
Evan.
Amen. Ki hamitzvah hazot asher anochi mitzavcha hayom lo niflehi mimcha velo rechoka hi lo bashamayim hi lemor mi elanu hashamayima vayikache halanu vayashmi enu ota v'naasena v'lo me'ever layam hi lemor mi ya'aver lanu el ever hayam vayikacha lanu וישמיענו אותה ונעשנה כי קרוב אליך הדבר מאוד בפיך ובלבבך לעשותו.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher koach. One of the best things about all this is seeing our people who I remember from preschool chanting Torah and saying blessings. That's like one of the best parts, I just want to say. We're going to continue. We're now at the bottom of page 267 with verse 15, and we are calling Jordan to the Bima, Jordan Vice Penzians, and Peter, and Rabbi Schiffer, you're already here, but I'm going to call you anyway, okay? Is that all right? Ya Amud, Harav Schiffer, Bat Menachem, Mendel V'chana, Evan Ben Sadeh V'Shalom V'Shira Emet, Aliyah Shlishi.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. It's a good thing you're tall.
Amen. Re'eh natati lefanecha hayom et hachayim ve'et hatov ve'et hamavet ve'et hara asher anochi mitzavecha hayom le'ahava et Adonai Elohecha lelechet bidrachav v'lishmor mitzvotav v'chuchotav u'mishpatav v'chayita v'ravita uvrechecha Adonai Elohecha ba'aretz asher ata b'shama l'rishta.
What did you get, 10 days? 2 weeks? Just saying, Jordan only had a couple of weeks to learn that, just saying.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher koach. Beautiful. I'd like to call up to the Bima for the last part of our Torah, of our Parsha for today. Jillian Wagman as our Ba'alat Kriya, and Bronwyn, Ken, and Daniel will be saying the blessings. Ya'amdu Ariel bet Avraham v'Sarah, Moshe ben David u'Basya Leah, Daniel Chaim ben Ariel, u'Moshe Aliyah Revi'i. You start with Ve'im, right? Yeah. It's a good thing you're tall, too.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Michol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'im yivnei levavcha v'lo tishma v'nidachta v'hishtachavita le'elohim acherim v'avatam higati lachem hayom ki avot tovedun lo tarihun yamim al ha'adama asher ata over et hayardain lavo shama l'rishta ha'idoti v'chem hayom et hashamayim vet haaretz hachayim v'chamovet natzati lefanecha habracha v'haklala uvecharto b'chayim leman tihyeh ata v'zarecha le'achava et Adonai Elohecha lishmoa bekolo uldov kavo ki hu chayecha ve'orech yamecha lashevet al hadama asher nishba Adonai lavotecha le'avraham le'yitzhak u'le'yaakov latei lachem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Yasher koach.
Yasher
Oh my
koach.
gosh.
Beautiful.
Oh my gosh. While we still have the Torah before us, we're going to turn our hearts towards healing. So many people are in need of so many kinds of healing, as Rabbi Shifra mentioned last night. Spiritual healing, psychological healing. I always remind myself that healing isn't always bringing a cure. Some conditions can't be cured, but healing can be at hand. And so as we turn to page 273, I invite you all to bring to your hearts and minds those who you are holding today, and I'll invite you all to just simultaneously create a tapestry of names that we can all hold in our hearts as well. So today we are praying for healing for Talia, Emma, Raven Malka, Maddie, David Fox. The middle of page 273. Mi sheberach avotenu mikor haberacha leimotenu source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mikor haberacha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. May it be so. I'd like to invite Judy Yokel to come hold the Torah, and I invite all of you to rise as we dress the Torah. Shalom, shalom. Where's the band? Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. It is a tree of life to them that hold fast to it, and all its supporters are happy. It is a tree of life to them that hold fast to it, and all its supporters are happy. Just hold it for a minute. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Eitz chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomcheha minusha. Eitz chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomcheha minusha. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Please be seated for the Haftarah. I want to invite somebody I know pretty well, Daniel Nannis. The blessing before Haftarah is found on page 275. And he will be chanting the Haftarah from Isaiah that Rabbi Schiffer mentioned last night, and he will begin on page 277 with verse 5. Yes, that's right. Yeah, you can take your mask off. You do Haftarah blessing after. You do it before. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nevi'im tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai הבוחר בתורה ובמשה עבדו ובישראל עמו ובנביאי האמת והצדק.
החזה יחיה צום אבחרהו יום ענות אדם נפשו הלכוב כאגמון ראשו ושק ואפר יציע הלזה תקרא צום ויום רצון לאדוני הלא זה צום אבחרהו פתח חרצובות רשע, התר אגודות מותה, ושלח רצוצים חופשיים, וכל מותה תנתקו. הלא פרוז לרעב לחמך, ועניים מרודים תביא בית. כי תראה ערום וכיסיתו, ומבשרך לא תתעלם. אז ייבקע כשחר אורך, וארוחתך מהרה תצמח. והלך לפניך צדקך, כבוד אדוני יאספך. אז תקרא ואדוני יענה, תשבע ויאמר הנני, אם תסיר מתוכך מותה, שלח אצבע ודבר אבן. ותפק לרעב נפשך, ונפש נענה תשביע. וזרח בחושך אורך, ואפלתך כצהריים. ונחך אדוני תמיד, והשביח בצוצחות נפשך, ועצמותיך יחליץ. והיית כגן רבה, וכמוצא מים, אשר לא יכזבו מימיו. ובאנו ממך חורבות עולם, מוסדי דור ודור תקומם. וקורא לך גודר פרץ, משובב נתיבות לשבת. אם תשיב משבת רגליך, עשות חפצך ביום קודשי, וקראת לשבת עונג. לקדוש אדוני מכובד, וכיבדתו מעשות דרכך. ממצוות חפצך דבר דבר. אז תתענג על אדוני, והרכבתיך על במטה הארץ, והאכלתיך נחלת יעקב אביך. כי פי אדוני דיבר.
Page 280. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol olamim, tzadik bechol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer ve'oseh, ha'medaber u'mekayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'nevi'im, ve'yol yom ha'kippurim hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, limchila v'lislicha, lechapara, lechavod u'letifaret, ala kol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim lach, u'mevarchim otach, yitbarach shimcha, בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד, ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני, מלך מוכר וסולח לעוונותינו ולעוונות עמו בית ישראל, ומעביר אשמותינו בכל שנה ושנה. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל ביום הכיפורים. If it's comfortable, please rise as we return the Torah to the ark. Chaim hi lemachzikim ba v'tomcheha meushar teracheha dadachena v'chol netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai elecha benashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Please be seated.
Page 293. Let's read responsively. Because I was angry, because I didn't think, because I was exhausted and on edge, because I'd been drinking, because I can be mean, because I was reckless and selfish, because I was worried about money, because my marriage was dead, because other people were doing it, because I thought I could get away with it, because I did something wrong. Together, because I'm in pain, because I wish I could undo it, because I hurt him, because I lost her trust, because I let them down, because I was self-destructive, because I was foolish, because I'm ashamed, because that's not who I am, because that's not who I want to be, because I want to be forgiven. God, bring down my walls of defensiveness and self-righteousness. Help me to stay in humility. Please give me strength to do what's right. Page 296. Let's read together. Our God and God of all generations, may our prayers reach your presence, and when we turn to you, do not be indifferent. Adonai, we are arrogant and stubborn, claiming to be blameless and free of sin. In truth, we have stumbled and strayed. We have done wrong. Ay, 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 Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi, Hevinu, Vihirshanu, Zadnu, Hamasnu, Tafanu Shaker. Yatsnura. Kisavnu. Latsnu. Maradnu. Niatsnu. Sararnu. Avinu. Pashanu. Tsararnu. Kishinu Orev. Rashanu. Shichatnu. Tiavnu. Tainu. Titanu. Ay, 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 ay. Page 300. For these sins, O God, we ask forgiveness. Together, the ways we have wronged you under duress and by choice, and harm we have caused you in your world, consciously and unconsciously. The ways we have wronged you through our thoughtlessness, and harm we have caused your world through impulsive acts of malice. The ways we have wronged you by abusing our power, and harm we have caused your world through disrespect to parents and teachers. The ways we have wronged you by giving in to our hostile impulses, and harm we have caused in your world through inflexibility and stubbornness. The ways we have wronged you through lies and deceit, and harm we have caused you in your world by making light of serious matters. The ways we have wronged you in our routine conversations, and harms we have caused you in your world through envy. For all these failures of judgment and will, God of forgiveness, forgive us, pardon us, lead us through atonement. Ve'al kulam Eloha slichot, slach lanu, mechal lanu, kaper lanu.
Yalkulam? Well, you just did it.
You can do it again. We can sing it.
Page 304. Let's read together. The ways we have wronged you openly and secretly, and harm we have caused in your world by hating without cause. The ways we have wronged you by losing self-control, and harm we have caused in your world through consumption of food and drink. The ways we have wronged you through sexual immorality, and harm we have caused you in your world by hardening our hearts. The ways we have wronged you through greed and exploitation, and harm we have caused in your world through dishonesty in business. The ways we have wronged you through our innermost thoughts, and harm we have caused in your world through gossip and rumor. The ways we have wronged you by offering or accepting bribes, and harm we have caused you in your world by profaning your name in public.
Together on page 313. Let us affirm the good we have done. Let us acknowledge our acts of healing and repair for the good we have done by acting with self-restraint and self-control, for the good we have done through acts of generosity and compassion, for the good we have done for offering children our love and support, for the good we have done by honoring our parents with care and respect, for the good we have done through acts of friendship and hospitality, for the good we have done through acts of forgiveness and reconciliation, for the good we have done by keeping promises and honoring commitments, for the good we have done through the work of our hands and by serving others, for the good we have done by caring for the earth and sustaining its creatures, for the good we have done for housing the unhoused, feeding the hungry, and welcoming the stranger, for the good we have done by acting with integrity and honesty, for the good we have done through thoughtful and encouraging words, for the good we have done by caring for our health and that of our loved ones, for the good we have done by strengthening our Jewish community, for the good we have done through acts of civic engagement and tikkun olam. All these have brought light and healing into the world. May these acts inspire us to renew our efforts in the year to come. Shema Kolenu, hear our prayer.
The text for this is on page 294.
Well, if there's listening going on, we're certainly listening to that and hope all of the beings are, and the Holy One. I want to say a great deal of thanks to all of our volunteers, to Jenny Kaup, who made this beautiful arrangement for our bima in our parking lot. I want to say thank you to Roger Wapner, who was our parking attendant volunteer. I've seen him do it before, so I knew he could do it again. I want to thank all of our ushers who have been just amazing during this whole period of time, during these 10 days. Really, thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts, sisterhood and brotherhood participants. I want to thank Landon for his help, Landon Gottlieb. I want to, of course, thank Mr. Andy Yanowitz over here, who none of this would be happening without you, so we know that. I want to thank our staff, Rabbi Shifra, our new executive director, David Ginsburg, Melissa, Sarah Clarkson, Marilyn, Eloy, Christopher, Anna, Sarah Tzipora, Nita, who has kept our building tidy, let's put it that way, Emily and Vlada, and of course the choir who so beautifully sang with us for Rosh Hashanah. Also want to thank our Simcha staff, Caitlin, who is our director, and our Simcha teachers who keep our kids happy and healthy, even during all this time. And of course to Holly, who I mentioned earlier, who is our head of our Rosh Chevra Kadisha and Roshah of our head Chevra Kadisha and our cemeterian. Just if you would like, I'd like to see people raise your hand if you're part of the Chevra Kadisha, in case people have questions that they might want to approach you. So just raise your hand high, who here has participated in the Chevra Kadisha, so that if there's anybody that would like to learn more, you can also contact Holly. Thank you. Last but not least, I want to thank our board of directors. Josh has been our president and unbelievable. Not only does your theater experience lend so much help in these days, as we know, and I want to thank Judy Yokel, who is our incoming vice president, and all of you who have served on the board or are currently board members. Would you stand for just a moment so people can thank you properly, if you've either been on the board or currently on the board. This is a very, very dedicated group of people who over the years have served our community in really important ways. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I want to remind people that Yizkor will begin at 1 o'clock, so you'll have a little time to take a quick walk if you like beforehand.
And can I thank you?
No.
I want to thank Rabbi Paula from the bottom of our hearts and from the bottom of our parking lot. From the middle of our parking lot, for everything, Rabbi Paula, for everything you do for this congregation.
Thank you, Rabbi Shifra. Thanks, everyone. So, rest of our day. 1 o'clock is Yizkor. 2:45 is meditation online with Karen Zellen. 4:30, we will have a session on Teshuvah, Searching Within to Dismantle Racism. It'll be outside on the front of the building, to the side of the building, and also on Zoom. And then at 5 o'clock, Sarah Tzipora will be hosting online Teshuvah Reflections. At 4:45, we have a young family service with Rabbi Shifra, which you don't want to miss if you're young, even if you're not young. And then at 6:15, Ne'ilah will be in person, or you're welcome to watch online a recording of the service we did last year. Reminder, I saw some of you schlepping bags of food. Thank you so much. It's not too late. You have till Sukkot. And want to also remind you to sign up for Mazon, for our feeding of those who are unhoused. Please complete the diversity, equity, inclusion survey that you got online. And we want to remind you there will be some listening meetings to hear your responses. And when we conclude our services, if you're not going to come back for Yizkor, please take your books and put them over on the table down below. David, would you stand? I think you're here with your family. Is your family here with you? I think Eleanor, would you stand up too? No. Who's here? Oh, your wife is here. Good. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Thank you for joining us, both of you. Of course, David, this wasn't very relaxing for you, but I hope it was for your partner. We're going to continue. Rabbi Schiffer is going to lead us on page 318 with our concluding prayers.
This is I've started a new tradition of having the kids come up and lead this, but we're not doing it this year because of the pandemic. But this is the one where the kids come up and sing Hayom, 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 Hayom. But we'll read it in English at the bottom of page 218. 318, yes, thank you. 318. Strengthen us this day.
Amen.
Bless us this day.
Amen.
This day exalt us.
Amen.
Show us kindness this day.
Amen.
Inscribe us this day for a life of goodness.
Amen.
This day hear our cry.
Amen.
Now and always support us with the strength of your righteousness. Amen.
Emily's going to close our service with Al Kol Eila, which is really a beautiful contemporary song from Israel that reminds us of all of it, all of it, all of it, all of it. The good, the hard, the bitter, the sweet.
Al hadvash ve'al ha'oketz, ahamar ve'hamatok, al bitenu hatinoket shmoreli hatov, al ha'esh hamevo'eret, ahamayim hazakim, al ha'ish hashav habayta min hamerkamim, al kol ele, al kol ele, shmor li eli hatov, al hadvash ve'al ha'oketz, al hamar ve'hamatok, al nata, al kol natua, al tishkach et hatikva, hashiveni ve'ashuva el ha'aretz ha'tova. Shmor eli al zeh habayit, ahagan v'hachoma, mi'agon mipachal peta u'mimilchama. Shmor al ha'me'at sheyesh li, al ha'or ve'al haftav, al ha'pri shelo hivshil od v'sheneh esaf, al kol ele, al kol ele, shmor li eli natov, al hadvash ve'al ha'oketz, al hamar ve'hamatok, al nata, al kol natua, al tishkach et hatikva, hashiveni ve'ashuva el ha'aretz ha'tova.
Al Kol Eila, for all of these things, we join together in gratitude. May we all have a meaningful fast. Gemar Chatima Tova, may we all be inscribed. And we say together, Amen.
Amen.
1 o'clock, we'll join together for Yizkor.